Thursdays about this time. We look forward to it because we get a visit from our good friend Brian Duffy, cartoonist, and well, we've been drawing all these politicians over these past several months, and you're just grinning more and more every week.
Well, you know, I should. I mean, I'm almost out of candidates. In fact, I'm so far out of candidates that I'm now starting to drag the people that have dropped out of the race back in again. And this one is, I think it's an interesting one because, number one, he's somebody that nobody knows about, and that's by design of the Democratic Party, and that's Lawrence Lessig. He was a professor, and of course, if I tell you where he was a professor, you'd immediately call him an egghead and whatever. But it was Harvard, and yeah, okay. So he was attempting to get on the stage on the first debate. The rules at the time were that you had to be 1% in 3 separate polls. And they had found along the way, up until, you know, we have a debate coming up here this weekend.
Saturday, yeah.
Right. And actually there's 2 chairs that are open, but he won't be able to fill it because they changed the rules on it. So it had to be back from October 8th, I believe. So there's no way that he said he would be able to go back to October 8th and say, I can find 3 polls that have me at 1%. Even though these other candidates all along had not even been at 1%, you know, the 2 of them that had dropped out. So, and he had some pretty interesting things to say. Okay. I mean, it's one of the things that was interesting about him, and I'll draw as I talk. I can do 2 things at the same time.
So did he dropped out, or he just never made?
No, he dropped out. In fact, he had made quite a bit of money. He'd raised over $1 million, raised more actually in a shorter amount of time than
we should run for
than some of the Republicans did. And that's the difference too, is that you have people that are not politicians on the Republican side. You know, you've got, obviously, you have Donald Trump, you have Ben Carson. But the Democrats seem to say, we want this locked down and locked down early.
So the Democrats have the same rules as far as the debates are considered?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, they don't. I mean, the Republicans, they obviously had the adult table and the kiddie table.
Right.
But the Democrats, it had to be poll numbers of a certain level.
All right.
And then they changed it.
Then they changed it.
Then they changed it. So,
what's this guy's name again?
Well, his name is Lawrence Lessig.
Okay.
Lesser?
Lessig. L-E-S-S-I-G. And what he is really running on is, or was running on, was the corruption in the political system and what money has done to it. And that was going to be his entire argument, is to get us back to a point where it's representative democracy again.
Which has a lot of truth to it.
It has a lot of truth to it.
And nothing ever seems to be done about that.
But that's the thing, is that we sit here and we complain about it, but we don't do anything about it. And you look at the candidates, and in fact, you know, the amount of money that's being channeled into politics now by a handful of extremely wealthy people, you can say they're the ones that are actually electing our representatives, and also they're stating, you know, they're saying this is what's going to be discussed, this is what's going to be passed, and so we really don't have a lot of say in it.
Well, you have Bernie Sanders, who isn't using a super PAC at this time. And
no, he's not using a super PAC.
Who claims he's not.
Yeah, I doubt that. Anybody. But you know, Bernie Sanders, I mean, he's a politician, so you know, sometimes you have to get out of that to be able to, you know, take a look at what some positions are that some of the candidates are looking at, but you need to also branch out and see what ideas are out there, and we're not doing that. We're not looking at what can possibly be changed.
He is an egghead.
Well, yeah, he is.
What was he a professor at Harvard?
There's a couple of areas that I don't know. He's a chair of one department.
Okay.
He had come from Stanford University, but one thing that might have hurt him is his position was this: he was going to be a transitional president. Now you ask, what is a transitional president? Well, he was going to, what his idea was to get his positions and platforms passed, and after they had become law, he would then leave the presidency to the vice president.
That's cool.
So that's kind of an interesting. I mean, if you're his vice president, yeah, you're great.
you're president for a while, and then you're going to hand the baton off once you get a couple of things done.
You're going to hand the baton off once you get the big things done.
All right.
Campaign finance.
Interesting.
Things such as climate change legislation. But I don't think that. We talk about the fact that you can really, nowadays it doesn't take a lot of money to get into, get into politics, to get attention. Well, it still does, if you want to go on a national level.
I mean, I think, and I don't know what you think about this, but it seems that you need about $2 billion in ad money to win the presidency.
Well,
yeah. 2 billion.
Or you need to have somebody you need to have the super PACs where you don't know where the money is coming from, or we don't know where the money is coming from, to do anything. And that money, people don't give money for free. They expect something else.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, he kind of had this chaotic campaign, didn't go very far. But I think in the future you're going to have to see something like this, because more people are going to have to take a look at what we are not getting done, and start to take a look at outside the political sphere, to people that actually have some concrete, normal, common sense plans to be able to get us to where we should be.
And the problem is, a lot of those people would never run because they see what happens to people who run, and how they get, the hard look from the media and all the things their family goes through. Yeah. And you really have to be a narcissist to want to do this.
Most of them are.
Yeah.
I think are narcissists, but the problem is, that's the process. I mean, I did a cartoon some years ago where I had a candidate on, glass slide with a microscope. That's what happens. You're putting your entire life out there for everybody to see. So, you should be able to back up every single thing that you've said, or anything in the past. And if anything surprises you, the typical, well, here's a gotcha question. In my opinion, a gotcha question is a question that you haven't thought of enough to come up with the correct answer. And that's what happens with a lot of the candidates on past issues too.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Now, if people want to see your work, where can they find your work?
Brian Duffy cartoons.com, Twitter. My tag is Duffy Inc. And of course here.
Here,
so
of course.
Also City View, definitely.
City View too. Yep.
Can I ask you one thing before we go? I was just thinking about this yesterday. No matter, let's say, just for the sake of argument, we've got Trump versus Hillary for the way the polls are now. Let's just say for the sake of argument.
Sure.
No matter which one wins, a whole lot of people are going to just be furious. Have you ever seen in any other election that you've been a part of where this is what's going to happen, where you have this much animosity?
I think it's grown tremendously, and one of the biggest things is that we become such a polarized society. It used to be years ago that you knew what the other side was saying. You would read about it someplace. You would see it either on television, or the newspaper would give generally a balanced view and a balanced report on what one side was saying or the other side was saying. Now, people only want to hear their side of the story. They don't want to hear anything that says something that's negative about what they feel. They feel comfortable in that sphere. And so we're so divided now that it's going to take a while. Yeah. And the other thing too is, we're not divided by political party anymore. We're divided by so many other different aspects, and the parties are starting to go away, and you're starting to see richer groups take that place. And there's a vacuum that's been formed there. People like the Koch brothers, and on the Democratic side you can have other ones that'll say the same thing. So that's a pretty scary thing, because they have a specific agenda, more so than a national party would.
There it is. All right. Thank you, Duffy. Good job as always.
Thank you, Duff.
All right, buddy. We'll see you next week.